Hi there. Call me Mr. Uberman. After 7,000 ride shares, meeting more than 7,000 people, here are the true stories and advice I have to give. This story is about one of the most confronting rides I've ever had as an Uber driver. And trust me, you see a lot of things driving people around. It was a cold, dark Monday night, one of those nights where the streets are almost empty, and I was just about ready to wrap things up. It was close to 10 p.m. and rides were scarce. I was tired, mentally clocking out. You know how it gets. Just counting down the minutes before I could get home, put my feet up, and call it a day. Then my phone buzzed with a ride request. It was just 2 minutes away, not far at all. And honestly, at that point, I was so close to just hitting the cancel button. I figured, I'm tired, it's not worth the hassle. But then I thought, you know what? Let's just get it over with. Last ride of the night, right? So, I swung my car around and headed to the pickup spot. Standing there, shivering on the curb, was a man in his 60s. He looked cold and a bit agitated, shifting his weight from one foot to the other like someone with a lot on his mind. I pulled up, unlocked the door, and in he got. I gave him a polite, "Hey, how are you tonight?" Hoping to spark some small talk, but he let out a sigh and said, "All right, I guess." I've been driving long enough to know that sometimes all right means anything but all right. He followed it up by saying, "I just had my adult grandchildren over." So I said, "That's nice," trying to keep the conversation light. But he wasn't having it. "No," he snapped. "All they care about is money. It's like they came to see what they could squeeze out of me. They don't care about spending time with me." It made me sad as I realized what he meant. Sometimes people just need to vent, and I get it, right? Last ride of the night anyway, he kept going, his voice low and bitter. "They used to be good kids. Now all they care about is what they're going to get when I'm gone." That hit me. You could hear the sadness buried under the frustration, like he wasn't just angry at them, he was disappointed. It was heavy stuff, but I just listened and gave him space to talk. Then somehow we started talking about his wife. I don't even remember how we got there, but I remember saying, "Well, at least you've had a lot of good years with her, right?" He nodded and said they'd been married for about 30 years. "It hasn't always been easy though," he admitted. I tried to encourage him, saying, "That's a long time. That's something to be proud of." And that's when things got interesting. He gave me a look like he was deciding whether to say more, and then he just let it out. He told me that years ago he'd cheated on her. "It was a long time ago," he said, "and I thought about leaving her back then, but I didn't. I stuck with it." It felt like a confession, like he was laying it all out in the passenger seat of my car. "I just buried it," he said quietly. "I decided to make it work and I stayed with her." I didn't really know what to say to that. What do you say when someone drops a bomb like that out of nowhere? So I just nodded and said, "Well, it sounds like you made it through." He gave a little shrug, like he wasn't sure if that was true or not. The car went quiet for a bit after that, both of us lost in our own thoughts. The ride was to a hospital, which I thought was a little odd. Why would he be heading there this late? Visiting hours usually end around 8 o'clock p.m., right? But I figured maybe he had a reason. Maybe visiting someone in a ward that allowed late visits. I didn't ask. I just kept driving, following the GPS. As we pulled into the hospital driveway, he asked me to take him right up to the emergency entrance. I thought that was strange too, but hey, I'm just the driver. I glanced over and asked, "Are you visiting someone in the ER?" That's when he hit me with it. "No," he said as he clutched his chest and winced. "I'm having a heart attack." For a second I just froze. My brain was racing, trying to process what he just said. He'd been sitting in my car this whole time, chatting about his family, his wife, his regrets, and the whole time he'd been having a heart attack. Before I could even react, he opened the door, gave me a quick, "Thanks for the ride," and rushed inside the emergency entrance, clutching his chest as he disappeared through the sliding doors. And just like that, he was gone. I sat there in stunned silence, watching the doors slide shut behind him. It hit me then. He'd been holding it all in, keeping it together during the entire ride. The anger, the frustration. It wasn't just about his grandkids or his past mistakes. It was also about the pain, and instead of calling an ambulance, he'd used me as his personal driver to get to the hospital faster. I couldn't believe it. I almost canceled his ride beforehand. He was literally having a heart attack in my passenger seat, and I had no idea. I felt bad, like maybe I should have noticed something was wrong. But he didn't show it, not until the very end. I sat there for a moment wondering if I should go inside, check on him, or do something. But in the end, I realized there wasn't much I could do. If you want to hear more true rideshare stories like this, you can subscribe. Hit the notification bell icon, then wait. I have so many more to share. I hoped he'd be okay, but I knew I'd probably never find out. That was how my Monday night ended, dropping a man off at the emergency ward in the middle of a heart attack. I started the night thinking it'd be a quiet shift, and I ended it with one of the most confronting experiences of my driving career. I drove home in silence, replaying the conversation in my head. Part of me wondered if he'd make it. Part of me hoped he'd get a second chance, just like he had with his wife. And that's the thing about driving for Uber. You never know what kind of stories people are carrying with them. Some are just looking for a ride. Others? They're also looking for an outsider to talk to. Crazy stuff for the last ride of a cold Monday night, right? I hope Phil made it through, but I guess I'll never know.